Hi, I'm Lauren Cooley, Senior Vice President of Retail and Brand Solutions at Retail Me Not, and I'm here today with Brendan Witcher, Vice President, Principal Analyst at Forrester Research, for a special edition of Retail Me Not's Trends to Watch report. In today's discussion, we're covering all things back-to-school shopping, including when and how much consumers are anticipated to spend, pandemic implications on this seasonal shopping event, and how retailers can still capture crucial spending dollars while helping consumers feel confident they're not overspending during economic challenges. Back to school season. We know it's going to look a lot different this year. And there are so many questions still up in the air for parents and students, which means that retailers are having a hard time planning. Brendan, what's your take on how retailers should be approaching this season, given that it's the second largest holiday shopping season in the US?
Back to school, great question. Because I think a lot of retailers right now might even be forgetting that that's right around the corner. What companies need to do right now is pay attention to the fact that back to school is going to mean a little bit something different for consumers, not only in the way that they spend or how they think about their spending, but the types of items they might be thinking about for back to school. Take into consideration that along with the physical challenges of getting products, the physical challenges of knowing where to pick up, when to pick up, how to pick up. It's not going to be an easy season, just to be clear, which is why right now you need to be thinking about what's that going to look like? What do we need to do? How do we need to do it? Honestly, what's really interesting about this whole concept is that it's actually opened up some new opportunities. I've been making some recommendations out to my clients who have a large assortment, for example, of back to school offerings in their assortment to do bundles. Bundles for back to school that make sense. Bundles that should make sense for homeschooling. So no matter where this pandemic takes us, you're prepared to offer the right kinds of products to your consumers.
You know, that makes so much sense. We did research in May where we polled 1,000 Americans asking what their spend would be in back to school this year compared to prior year. And at first I was really surprised learning that spending was anticipated to be up year over year from $507 last year to $532 this year. And while that was shocking, understanding the financial crisis, hearing you talk about being ready for different scenarios makes that really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, consumer spending is going to be up for back to school no matter what, because a lot of us, myself included, learned just what it costs to support a child in school that might have to do some home or distance learning. We tried using my computer for a while as a shared instrument among me and my children. That didn't work out very well. You know, so obviously computers might be on the list. Things like tablets or flash drives or, you know, a new mouse or things like that. That's going to incrementally move that up. That's a single digit jump in percentages. But the things that are out there that people see them having to spend money on is likely going to be what's going to drive that. If the pandemic crushes us and we go into a real financial, more like a depression, then, you know, don't hold us to this information. But for now, this is the way consumers feel.
Sure. Well, in addition to that computer need, those kiddos still grow year over year. So I guess the new clothes and the more traditional shopping elements are still in play every back to school year.
Yeah. And it's also a little bit of deferred buying. You know, deferred buying. I haven't bought my kids new clothes in a while, right? So I know I'm also going to have to add that to back to school, maybe a little bit more than I used to, because I haven't really been doing that for 3 or 4 months.
Yep, that makes sense. Let's move on to where parents are shopping this season. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, there's a very clear line on where people are putting their dollars now, and it will probably impact the holiday buying as well. So lots of consumers have consolidated, some of them by choice, some of them because of ease and simplicity and things like that, but also because, quite frankly, there's a lot of retailers out there that just could not keep up with demand, and consumers were forced to go elsewhere to get products. So we saw that somewhere around a third of retailers say that we were unable, due to supply chain issues, to get the products we need and meet demand. And so what ends up happening is that consumers say, all right, well, I'm going to start going to people that are a little more reliable. Even though these other companies are typically reliable, just for now, I can't really count on them to get me the stuff that I need as long as the word COVID-19 is still in the conversation. Right. And so that's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate for brands and retailers, which is why it's so important to get back in the game and make sure that you're out there communicating why you have what they need and have what they want. You're trying to kind of bring them back a little bit into the fold. In reality, people need to buy for back to school, right? That has to happen. There is no scenario in which people don't go to school, either whether it's homeschooling or in person. So I think the reality is that your marketing is really going to matter heading into this season more than it ever has.
How important do you think having the alternate pickup options is to maintain? So everything from in-store purchasing for those that feel comfortable, or BOPIS or curbside for those that don't.
Curbside was actually the number one investment that retailers had made during this period. It far outweighed same-day delivery or any other kind of form and format. It even outweighed buy online, pickup in store. And that actually has become a huge, huge channel for consumers to use. I was talking to a retailer recently, one of these big box retailers that you'd certainly know the name of. And they were telling me that before the pandemic, their buy online, pickup in store was about 60% of their orders compared to buy online, ship to home, right? 60%. So in other words, people were actually choosing to go pick up in store more often than buying the item online and getting it shipped to their home. And what I found out in a recent call with this company just last week was that their buy online, pickup at store is actually now 4 times their buy online, ship to home. 4 times. Just amazed me. And I think it's a little bit of that fear of returning, right? Because if I do buy online, pick up at store, I can look at the item and say, nope, that's not right? And I can give it right back to them. And that will certainly continue into the holiday season, which is why I really do recommend that if you have things not buttoned up, whether it's curbside, buy online, pick up in store, back to school will slam you, and Q4 will slam you even harder with that. So make sure you got it all set and ready to go.
I've been amazed at how retailers have adapted to that so quickly. And it's been very interesting to watch the age demographics of those that have adjusted so quickly as well to that type of shopping.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, this is forced behavior. What we forget is we've been following for 20 years, like, what does the consumer want? What are their expectations? That's just not how it is anymore. Right now, we're in a state of forced behavior. Consumers just don't have a choice. They have to shop in certain ways. But I think what's really important, and we haven't really talked about it yet, is this idea of making sure that these programs are in place even after the pandemic is over. That is just so critical. And here's why. Because it might seem like the smart thing to do is open your doors and get as many customers to come in the store as possible. That is actually the wrong move to make. And here's why. Because consumers walking in don't want to walk into a crowded store. Employees don't want to work in a crowded store, right? Tying this to your marketing, make sure you say that in your marketing messages, right? We saw a huge difference in the comfort level of people willing to go into grocery stores, which was about only 10% of consumers said, I don't do that, versus 61% of consumers said I don't eat in restaurants. They're both food. What's the big difference? As you do your marketing going into these seasons, make sure you're tagging why it's safe, how it's safe, right, in your environment. Talk about the moves you've made to make sure that your customers are as safe as possible when they're shopping with you.
Brendan, that is all such great advice for retailers, and thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned for another edition of Trends to Watch with Retail Me Not and Forrester coming soon.